Welcome to the Let's Talk About Fostering podcast, the podcast from the Polaris community where we answer your questions and bring you insights into the world of fostering from the people who live it every single day. I'm your host, Faye. This episode is called It Takes a Village. Now, you'll have heard the phrase, it takes a village to raise a child, and that really rings true in the world of fostering. We're joined today by foster parent Teresa, who fosters with Fosterplus in Gloucestershire, and Jim McGarrigle, who's the responsible individual for a number of our fostering agencies here at Polaris. We'll be talking about all the support you receive when you join one of our fostering teams, and the support is good to have around you at home too. Let's get into it. Teresa, this episode is called It Takes a Village. We want to show people that when you foster, you're not in it alone, and that support can look like lots of different things from lots of different people. So when you first started 6 years ago, what did your village look like at that time?
I have to say that at the time I was unaware I needed a village.
Good.
And now I've realised that actually I need a metropolis.
Yeah.
I think village is a little bit confining.
Okay, we need to expand the episode.
We do indeed.
It takes a metropolis.
Yes.
I like it.
But help comes in so many varied forms that at the time you don't even necessarily realise it's help. In that obviously you have to have the support of your family as an initial thing. Then there are social workers, there are doctors, there are nurses. But in a wider sense than all the professionals, there's actually the local community. Because if you get a child who's troubled, occasionally their behaviour isn't at their shining best when they're out and about. And it's all part of the help, and that they're helping him overcome the barriers he's got to face and helping you not be ostracised by the community.
So we've kind of talked about the wider context of what that support might look like, but what about kind of closer to home? And maybe let's talk about how that's developed over the years that you've been fostering. So day one, you start and you think,
Piece of
got
cake.
this. Yeah. I don't need anybody. When in fact...
The truth hits home, yes, at some point.
So tell us kind of friends, family, neighbours, what does that...
Well, we've been very lucky. We've got a very, very supportive family. For example, there was someone we needed to see fairly regularly to help us understand the behaviours that were being exhibited. And my sister, without fail, would have our youngster for that time and take him out on walks and things, although it meant a huge amount of travelling for her because, you know, we live about an hour apart from each other and whatever. And it's that sort of help there that just comes in without you having to ask for it.
That's really lovely. So you just kind of a bit of a safety net. So when you need someone, you know you've
exactly
got them available.
And accepting as well that, you know, when it's Christmas, they get the same presents and the same treatment as everybody else who's a natural part of the family.
So kind of normalising the young person in your care, nothing to see here sort of approach to things.
Yes.
Great. Jim, why is it so important, do you think, for people who are considering fostering to engage with their kind of friends and family and maybe their wider community?
You know, having that support network, I think, is really important with fostering because it is, you know, it can be difficult at times. It's not an easy vocation, you know, and it can be very stressful. And having people on hand to support you, you know, to do some, you know, a bit of looking after while you're trying to go and do your training or whatever it is you need to do, and just being on hand, even just for, you know, being able to be there to vent, because, you know, sometimes that's all you need, just to be able to have a friend to call and, you know, get it off your chest. It's actually, you know, it's one of the things, obviously, when we're looking for foster parents and they're going through the assessment process, you know, one of the areas that is explained is to do with your support network, and if it's there and if it's functional and how that's going to look, because, you know, it can be very lonely profession, I think, at times, you know, especially when you're, you know, there's like everything kind of going on directed at you and you need that kind of support. And it's interesting because obviously we're talking about kind of it makes a village with the foster parent, but, you know, that relates quite closely to, you know, to what we do as professionals as well. You know, there's, you know, in terms of we need the teams around us to make it function, to make the agency function. So, you know, it relates on both ways, I think.
I think there's a lot of reluctance, and I've heard foster parents talk about this in the beginning. I'd be interested to hear what you think about this, that in the beginning, I think people can be scared to ask for help because they think, oh, they're going to think I'm doing something wrong. Oh, I have done something wrong. Oh, I should just know this should come naturally to me. And a lot of people will say, week one, I just thought, oh God, I'm going to get on with it. And by however many years down the line, constantly, what about this? What do you think about this? I've experienced this. Is that a journey that you've been on? Have you found it easier to open up and lean on people over the years? Or were you okay with that from the start?
I think that's a 2-level thing, actually, because yes, I have found it easier to lean on people over the years. But I think also if you try and do everything for any children yourself, you're limiting them hugely, because you're limiting them to your experiences and your views and whatever else. And I think children need to be exposed to a wide amount of views and ways of doing things and ideas and whatever else, so that they can become informed and make better decisions for themselves in the future.
So is it quite common? So if we're taking kind of a typical, I know there's no such thing, foster journey, you do your Form F. Towards the end of that, you do your basically an intensive workshop where you get to grips with the fundamentals of fostering.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Then, so in practice, should a curveball or something unexpected or a behaviour or something arise, there's not much that you can't learn as a foster parent.
There are actually, we have to do 8 courses that we repeat biannually.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's sort of reporting and recording.
All your mandatory stuff.
Yeah, exactly, that have to be done. And quite honestly, some of them are just literally you're repeating the same things. But what it does do is it keeps you fresh in your memory.
It's a refresher, yeah.
Because it's very easy to think, oh, I've done this before. But if you really look at it, you learn something new every single time.
Jim, why is it important to keep learning and growing as a foster parent?
Because obviously, social work, fostering, it's a learning experience. We're always learning as we go through that journey, and it's to keep your training up to date is really important, because new research comes out, and you want to make sure that we're keeping on top of that. And children are all going to present with different types of needs, and there's going to be very specific needs that you're going to have to learn about, and we want to make sure that foster parents have build their knowledge base and their kind of tool base to kind of manage whatever's thrown at them, really. And that's because it's not as straightforward as we've made a match, and sometimes the child comes to live with you, they present completely differently to the referral that you've had, and so it's being able to be equipped to kind of manage that as that comes at you. And I think that's the real skill in fostering, is just being able to manage that.
A common misconception, we're going to talk a little bit now about fostering as single people. So I think a lot of people might think that you cannot foster if you are single, but that's not the case. And we've got a lot of foster parents at Fosterplus who do foster alone. But obviously, we're talking about it takes a village. Jim, from your kind of perspective, what support is available for someone fostering as a single person with Fosterplus or one of the Polaris agencies? What can they expect?
Well, I mean, it's no different to if you're fostering as a single person, you're fostering as part of a couple. The kind of wraparound support that Fosterplus offer, is you've got your social worker, you've got all the out of hours teams, you've got education specialists, you've got therapists you can link in with, and then on top of that you have all the referrals teams and the managers. It's just it's a fully wraparound stuff, and then also other foster parents. You've got that peer support, which can actually be absolutely fantastic in terms of helping any foster parent out, really, if they got that peer support, because a lot of the time the foster parents have lived it, so actually they're sharing that experience of as you talked about earlier, we've been through that, this is how we managed it, but this is just so you've got people around you at all times to help support you.
I like that whether you're a single foster parent or you're in a couple, you've still got the same wraparound support, but perhaps what a single foster parent might not have is that person at home to go, and maybe pour out.
And I think that's what we talked about earlier. That's a lot of what kind of the job of the social worker is as well. And on out of hours, I get it. And sometimes the foster parents phone me up, midnight, they've had a really bad time and they just need to go and
let it out.
And that's what we're there for, and that's absolutely fine, because you need to be there for that person and allow them to have that channel to get them, to get that out of their system. So there's always someone on hand, there's always someone around, and as I said, even for when we talk about single foster parents, there's always going to be someone you can talk to, whether it's your social worker or your family support worker or whoever it is, there's always going to be.
I think it feels daunting for people at the start of their journey. Oh God, I'm going to have to to pour out like that or to lean on people. But actually, when you get involved in this community, everyone is in the same place. Everyone has got, everyone has got those magical moments. Everyone has been through some really challenging times. And actually, the more you talk, the more you see, oh, actually, we've all got, similarities. It isn't just me. I've got that support. You mentioned peer support. Teresa, is that something that you have at Fosterplus? In your experience, have you communicated with fellow foster parents?
I have indeed. Absolutely, I have. And, it makes a really nice little community, actually. And we meet up at times for cake and coffee.
Lovely.
And which is always very welcome. And during the day, obviously, when children are at school, so it gives us a bit of freedom. And everyone has a really interesting story to tell. But I would say also about being a single foster parent that for some children, it might be easier, because if you get a child that needs 100% attention the whole time, if you haven't got a partner that you're also trying to give attention to and deal with and everything, being a single foster parent can be quite beneficial, or could be quite beneficial, I would say.
I've chatted with quite a few foster parents who are single, and they've said exactly that. They've said, the effort and attention that I can put into this child is 100%. That's what I'm here to do. And they have matches where that's, appropriate for both of them. So, and I think it's important to consider that matching does take place, and hopefully if that's done well, it will be the right fit for you, whether you are single, whether you are married, whether you are in whatever variation of a relationship that can work for you.
My son says he can see a lot of himself in our foster son. He was adopted when he was 9 with a very, very severe cleft lip and palate, so had to go through a huge amount of surgery. My daughter was adopted when she was 1 and is of a very singularly determined nature. And both of them have been able to give him a great deal. They've included him in absolutely everything. My daughter is an avid horse rider, and it's what she works with professionally. And so she's given him riding lessons and taken him out on rides and things like that. Whereas my son has just sort of been around for him and taken him on walks and included him in everything. And I think that's been hugely valuable to him.
So it's more companionship with your son, or kind of a brotherly.
Exactly. Very, very much so. Yes.
And then just for context, so a lot of people will foster with young children at home, but you have grown-up children. So how old are they?
They are now 25 and 28. At the time, they would have been 19 and 22.
Okay, so that's quite an interesting age for you to start fostering. Can you tell us about that kind of the intro conversations with them, that this is what you were going to be doing?
Well, my daughter was not living at home at the time, because being with horses, she had to live on site.
Okay.
But she said, "That's absolutely fine, Mum. I'm not at home anyway."
Okay.
Whereas my son was at home, living and working at home at the time. He was just freshly back from university.
How does your foster child find, because obviously it's quite a big age gap there, does he see that
he doesn't really get on with children his own age?
Okay.
He finds that very, very challenging indeed, and he's far better with ones that are older or younger by some degree.
So it works quite nicely for him. Brilliant.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then so we've got your 2 grown-up children who they come and go, presumably visit home and get involved with your young person, which is nice. And then there's husband at home, Clive's with you too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what's your kind of split between working and fostering? How do you manage that between you both?
Well, I gave up most of my work when I realised I needed to fairly early on, because school wasn't entirely suiting our young one, and he was coming home most days.
Okay.
And we decided it was better for me to give up a lot of my work. I continue to teach in one school because I feel it's healthy for me to get out and do something that challenges me mentally.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Yeah, and it's good to have a bit of variation and have something for you too.
Absolutely, just to get out of the house. And so really the care is 99% in my hands.
Okay.
But that suits us both.
Yeah, and then is Clive out working or?
Yep.
Yeah, brilliant. But again, the point is you find a setup that works for you.
Absolutely.
And your family.
But isn't that so with every kind of marriage and every kind of family life? You have to find your balance.
Find your fit, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Teresa's given us an example there of fostering with adult children, but Jim, we know we have lots of people who foster with younger children at home. Fostering can fit most family setups.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
If someone has got younger children at home, how, as an agency, do we support the children? Because, Teresa there's mentioned some quite challenging circumstances, and we know that fostering is not without those ever. So how do we make sure that the birth children or adopted children are not being impacted? What's that support look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you kind of at your kind of ground level, you've got a social worker. You supervise the social worker. That is it's for the family. The social worker is for your whole family, for your whole network, really. So that includes any children that may be in the household. There's direct work that we can do with children in the house, children in a fostering household as well, to help them. Maybe also, preparation work as well, and help them, especially if they're in the middle of, if they've got the children coming in and we just want to help them understand a bit about their needs and why they might behave in a certain way. Because, they play a big part in the looked after children's lives, because they are part of that family, part of that fostering family. And from what Teresa said, that's exactly that's the kind of environment we want them to be, with that kind of supportive foster siblings, I guess, as it were. But also, we have spoken to a lot of birth children and children in a fostering household who have gained so much from being part of that fostering experience, actually, and still things that they have taken with them into their kind of adult life. So it's such a wonderful experience when it's got right.
So despite challenges, do you think that there can be benefits to
100%? Yeah, absolutely. Because we all learn from each other. And especially as children, we can learn from one another. And I think as I said, I've spoken to birth children who've just really have had such a good experience with it, and they, as I said, they've gained they've gained a lot of the time how to kind of be a lot more patient and understanding. And it's about kind of and it's the same with foster. We're looking at the underlying reasons for behaviours, and it's helped them become more inquisitive and think about life in a much more expanded way, as opposed to quite linear. So I think it's really important, and I think it's really great.
It is lovely.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't know what the statistic is, but I think we see that a lot of foster parents come from parents who fostered. It tends to.
Yeah, I mean, we have got that. We do have that in a couple of few of our agencies where their their parents fostered, and now they've gone into fostering. And as we talk about support, any and all support that we can offer, birth children in a fostering household is there. Specialised training as well, I think, is really important, that we include them in kind of feedback, and when we go and visit them, to get their kind of to get their input, because it's really important, because that that helps us understand how we progress our service as well.
So they are as much of the fostering journey as the foster
100%.
parent, fully involved
100%.
every step.
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you would give to people who do have younger children about addressing the conversation that we maybe are going to start fostering, and what that might look like for them?
Yeah, I guess it depends on the age of the child and the understanding of your own children as well, really, about how you kind of progress that. So I guess it's but that conversation has to be had, obviously, because it's going to be something that's impacted them,
Hugely impacting their life.
And obviously, as part of that assessment process, we the assessor will talk to people's children as well, to kind of get their kind of feedback from it. But I think it's a very individualized approach, really. I don't think I could say this one size fits all, because it very much depends on that child's kind of age and understanding. And a lot of the time, your parents, as parents, you're gonna know the best way to approach that with your child.
But just engage in the call. I mean, you've got to
have that conversation.
And then case by case with each.
Absolutely.
And what about perhaps maybe trickier? Is there an example you can give, or how you might work with foster parents' own children off the back of something that was maybe quite difficult to go through? So maybe placement breakdown, or something that was quite traumatic. Is there kind of like wraparound support for the children? Yeah,
it is very individualized, but we're always there to support, and making sure that if there's anything that we can do, anything that we can put on, if there's extra training or therapy, anything that we can do, we'll always make sure that we do it.
Brilliant.
I think there's actually more help for foster parents in that way than there are for natural birth parents, because when you have a sibling,
100%.
it might not work easily, but you can't very well say, this is breaking down, actually, I'm sorry, it's not going to work anymore.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You have to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Which is, there is so much support, I think, for foster parents. Well, I hope, it is part of what we pride ourselves on, is having that support for foster parents. But yeah, interesting as a birth parent. Yeah, as a parent myself. Again, it's not easy.
And it doesn't get easier.
No, and you can't, end the
Yeah.
Do you think, Teresa, fostering has impacted your children, even though they entered the fostering journey, early 20s and late teens?
Very, very much so. I think it's given them a far broader understanding of life. And I think they had a different understanding to a lot of people because of coming through the adoption process. And certainly for my son with his cleft, but it certainly has. And I would say that with Fosterplus, we've obviously had various social workers, and every single one of them has been really superb. Really helpful to the children, my children, as well as to us.
At the start of this conversation, you said about kind of, you don't need a village, you need a metropolis, and expanding that into actually having conversations with your community. So not just your immediate friends and family, but actually kind of broadening, reaching out. Do you find, or do your children have conversations with people about what you do? You learn so much when you work in this field, whatever, in whatever capacity.
You do, and I think often when they talk, it's because they're explaining it to themselves out loud.
Okay.
With their friends as the willing recipients.
Yeah. Coming to terms with everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Some free therapy.
Don't do that, though.
Yeah.
Teresa, finally, we like to end all of our Let's Talk About Fostering episodes by asking foster parents for a favourite memory. Something for you that makes you think, this is why we foster.
Every year we make what we call a memory book. So every time we do anything, I take millions of photographs, and then using an online photo bookmaker, I make them into a book which he gets every Christmas, and it has a page for everything we do with photographs and a little blurb to remind us of exactly what went on that day. And we love looking at those together, so we can go back and say, oh, do you remember when this happened? Do you remember what we did there? And so on. And so it encompasses all of our memories.
Amazing. Just a really beautiful memento of, because it's all great.
And because we tend to do something every single week, we need to do something every single week.
Busy people.
There's a lot to remember, and this helps keep it fresh.
Do you recommend that other foster parents do a similar thing? Is it important?
Absolutely, I would.
Track of what you get up to?
Well, someone once said to me that when you get a child who's been through a particularly troubled past, he said it's like having a pack of cards that you throw up in the air and they come down in a completely random mess. So they find it very difficult to ascribe specific memories to specific places or people or whatever. And this helps keep it all in order and remind him what we have done and what we have enjoyed together and what we've got out of it and so on and so forth. And it keeps it present for his mind, and so he can understand it and look back over it.
A way to celebrate all the lovely parts.
Yes. Because when he first came to us, there were things we did. We went to Legoland, for instance, and he, a week or two later, said, I remember my birth parents took me to Legoland. I know for a fact they hadn't. And it's just the memories had got completely chaotically
arranged,
juxtapositioned in his mind. Yes. Yeah. And this helps keep them there, which helps him because he can understand his life and order it far better.
So it helps his kind of chronology. But then what about from a emotional stance? Is it a feel good factor for him?
Oh, he loves it. Yes. He often asks if we can. I keep them in a special drawer so they don't get damaged at any point. And he often says, "Oh, can we get the memory books out and go through them?"
Oh, it's a thing, like it's a regular, lovely thing to do at home. Oh, I think that's really beautiful.
So,
Thank you for sharing that.
So,
amazing. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Let's Talk About Fostering. If you'd like any more information, check out the links in our description, and we'll see you next time.